Okay, this is the settings. Now, the feature that has been, added includes, the trade on Sunday. And of course, we've, modified, the trailing stop feature. The minimum, here, take profit is 10. Now, I was asked earlier on, what settings do I use personally? I would, because I am going to be trading, I mean, there are two ways in which you can actually do this. There are two ways in which you could trade this at least. If you wanted to go for just your 10 pip profit, then you would, have 10 pips in there. You have 10 pips in there, and basically your stop loss, I recommend 20 pips, basically to give the market room to move. I mean, some of us are using 25, but 20 pips, I believe, is fine as well, because if you check most 1 hour candles, they are, it usually would not retrace more than 20 pips before it continues in your direction, in the desired direction. So I would have 10 there. If 10 pips is what I'm going for, 20 there. I would ignore all of those. Now, what I have been doing, lately as well, is to change this from true to false, which basically means I don't want multiple trades taken. I mean, I think that is particularly good now that we have the trailing stop feature, now it has been upgraded. So with just the one trade, you should be fine. But if you want to take multiple trades, because you find what happens sometimes, because we're on the 1 hour time frame, the initial trade will be entered, the first trade will be entered on the 1 hour, and then by the time it gets to the second hour, it enters another trade. Now, if it is the case that you are coming to the end of the upward or downward move, it means that that second trade, if anything, could retrace against you, obviously quicker than the first one. So I would rather say, if you want to play it safer, you could stick to just the one trade, but otherwise you could leave it as true. I would ignore all these other beats and come to the trailing setting or the trail setting. Now, this is basically a question. It's asking at what point do you want to to start trailing your profits. 15 is the default, and I would say to leave it at 15. But obviously, as everyone is an individual and you want to experiment all kinds of things and perhaps find out what works for you, you could adjust that accordingly. I mean, obviously, some of us have been trading as well, for some time. There is usually how we do it. So I personally would leave it at 15. That's the trailing stop. The trailing step, I will leave at 5. Now, let me show you what the trailing step is. Basically, the trailing step is how much the price would retrace, how much you would want the price to retrace before it stops you out. So let's say, for instance, you got in on a trade here, and it started going up, kept on going up. And by the time this candle closed and the next one opened, it began to retrace. You want it to be that it stops you out when it goes so far. If 5 pips of retracement is what you can take, then obviously you put 5 pips here for the trailing step. I know a lot of us have not heard of trailing step before, but yes, there is such a word as trailing step. So that is by how much you want the trade to retrace before it takes you out. Now, if it is the case that you started here, you kept on going, there was retracement, but you kept on going, and it began to go. You don't want it to go all this way, obviously. that would be murder. So you want to choose what you think you're comfortable with. I mean, some people might also say, oh, if it has retraced, or if the price has gone so far, I want to give it more room to retrace. Perhaps I want to give it 10 pip, retracement room. That is obviously entirely up to you. But this is how much I'm willing to take. After all, I know by the time it gets to 15 pips, my 10 pip is already secure. Everything else is a bonus, or maybe not. So that's what the trailing step is. Now, the rest of it, let's see. Obviously, we've gone through this before. This is basically the days of the week when you want it on. I tend to trade Monday to Friday, like I'm sure most of us. Some of us, especially those of us in the US, I'm sure you do trade on Sunday because it's daytime, more or less, when the market opens over there. So you could change that to true. Saturday, well, I could leave that as false, unless you trade the cryptos. I mean, the PipCollector is not exactly advised. I don't advise you trade it with, you use it for trading cryptos, even though there are some crypto currencies that actually do well in a sense with the PipCollector. But we know, because they are very volatile, when it retraces big time, and you could lose your money. So I would not advise we trade the PipCollector. We trade cryptos using PipCollector. So that is basically what it is. I mean, this has been adjusted to GMT. I mean, I'm not sure if some of you have tried it out, but yeah, I do believe it as I leave mine on. It really comes on when I'm asleep anyway. Although I need to basically check it to see if it is GMT. But I know it wasn't GMT before, but now it's GMT. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Francis, I do.
So I didn't hear that.
I do. Now, this is Dr. Carter.
Okay.
Okay, show me how. Okay, if I'm going up, where it says fixed take profit 10 pips.
Okay.
If I'm going up 10 pips, my trailing stop loss would kick in after 15 pips, or would it kick in after the 10 pips, the way you've got it set?
Okay, I mean, your trailing stop will kick in here at 15 if that's what you've put in there. So the 10
that would have to be greater, right? Because it's gonna stop at the 10 pips, so the 15 stop loss will make a difference.
Oh, sorry, I do apologize. I mean, obviously, like like the note I sent to you earlier on.
Yes.
I would have mine at 80. Well, 80 or any other bigger number, because the thing is, I mean, even though we are saying yes, we want to go for 10 pips, if there's a big move in the market, I'm not quite sure how many pips this is, but if there's a big spike in the market, obviously in your direction, you want to capture all that as profit. So I would basically leave that as a high number, the take profit. Like you rightly said, if you have that as 10 and have this as 15, it will basically stop you out before it even gets to 15, because these figures here, fixed take profit, fixed stop loss, they are fixed in the sense, once it gets there, it's going to stop you out in either way. So obviously with the take profit, you want to have a big number, just dream of something big. And
let's say you have 50 there. Let's say you have 50.
Oh, well, I mean, 50 is fine. I mean, obviously
Just run with me. Let's say you have 50 there, because I'm trying to understand this trailing stop and trailing step. That's where I'm getting thrown off at, and be able to explain it to my team. Okay. So let's say we have 50 for the take profit, 20 for the stop loss.
Okay.
Then for the trailing stop, okay, it's going up. Let's say it's in a buy. So ECAD's in a buy. It's going up. It's going up. It's reached the 10 pips. Oh, I'm sorry. It's reached the 15 pips. So now my trailing stop
is triggered.
Kicks in.
Yeah.
Okay. So now it's steady going up. Let's say it's going up to like 30 pips, 40 pips. And then all of a sudden it does a pullback. That pullback, that's where the trailing step comes in, right? So now the trailing step is just for the pullback, not for the direction that it's going.
Yeah. So I mean, the trailing step, exactly. I mean, so if you get in the buy and you are 10 pips up, 15 pips is triggered, keeps on going, 25, 30, 40 pips, and then it retraces by about 5 pips. it takes you out. It closes out the trade. That's because you've typed in 5 there, you've chosen 5. But if it was 10, it would have to retrace 10 pips before it takes you out. But I mean, if it goes as high as 40, for instance, and it retraces 5 pips, which means you go away with 35 pips.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've seen that.
And I had a private chat with some guy today. He said he actually captured he captured 30 pips with that on one of the pairs. So which obviously is a good thing. I mean, like I said to you, I mean, I have not been able to test this out myself, extensively like I would, because for the last 3 weeks it's been crazy here with my internet connection. I mean, I've had to get a second account, so that I can, but I know it works because having whenever I get the opportunity to get on the computer that has the internet connection, I see what has transpired. I know certain things have worked well. Like today, for instance, on the euro pound, it was going up for about 3, 4, 5 hours, and obviously, if you had a trailing stop in place, you would have captured all those pips.
Yeah, that I did that. I'll be honest with you. I had it going for 24 hours on a lot of my pairs, and it was rolling. I mean, about 2:30 this morning, it kept dinging me. That's what woke me up. It kept dinging, dinging, dinging because it was changing the stop loss. The trailing stop loss was working. I mean, it was moving, and did very well. And so I had it going up until 11 o'clock. Which I should have took off multiple trades. I had it going to 11 a.m. So I just need to adjust my settings, and it's off the chain because I mean I was in profit from like 2:30 this morning all the way up until about 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then that's when things started kind of changing because the banks are opening and different things like that.
Yeah.
But I would have took and then it kept entering me into multiple trades. So if I take the multiple trades off, because we have the trailing stop loss now. Trailing stop loss, the multiple trades is not even needed, to be honest with you, because that thing's going to keep going until it stops, and then when it gets ready to go again, the pip collector is going to pick it up anyways. And what I love about it is like just what you were showing about price action a few minutes ago. I saw some that I follow price action too, and I look at the ranging and the consolidation, and so I've seen a UCAD like that, the one you're on right now, and I saw that it was getting ready to make a good up move. And I jumped in and when I changed, all I did on the pip collector is I went from where it says use trading hours, I changed it from true to false.
Okay.
And it put me in the 24-hour and it automatically triggered. And that's what I needed. That's what I was looking for in the other versions. So this version has it. It has everything we need. We just have to personally fine tune it to us. So I'm going to fine tune it for my team over here in the US on the Eastern Standard Time. Because I mean that thing it worked so well for me last night that it was powerful. I made about like 20-something bucks, so I made back the $25 that I even paid to get it just in one night. I just got to readjust my hours and different things like that, which I'm working on now. But I wanted to do it after this webinar because I wanted to ask that question about the trailing step and the trailing step. So that's perfect. I love it.
So you have actually started using the trailing stop feature.
Yes, sir. I had it set at I think 10 and 5 or 15 and 5. I'm not sure if I had it at 15 and 5, but I just needed to know the fine tuning that I needed to do, and so you just showed me what the fine tuning is. And this thing is, I'm telling you, Francis, you got your hands. You created something that is just like, I mean, it's amazing. My day is so busy, I don't have time, and like I said, for me, to be honest with you, our hours on the Eastern Standard Time. I saw last night, about 12:30, the traffic starts moving. But of course, 2:30, 3 o'clock is the time that it really starts getting going. And sure enough, about 2:30, and then when the news jumped off, I got a part of the news. So last night, I probably got about 50, 60 pips myself. And so it was really, really good last night to see that. And it just kept putting me in the trades. It would take me out and a trailing step would step in, and then bam, it would put me when the next candle came, it would put me back in the trade. And that's what I needed to see. Every candle I was getting back in that trade.
So I mean, tell me, you said your phone kept on pinging. I mean, what was that? Where was the pinging coming from?
what I have on my phone is a with the trailing stop. I can if you go into options, if you go into tools and then options up in not there up in the MetaTrader 4.
All right. Okay. I get what you mean.
It's the way, when it says contact you, it'll contact you, and it lets me up options. If you go to options.
Okay. You mean when the trade is entered? Okay.
Yeah, you got it. And where it says notifications, email.
I would even think of that. I want to get my sleep.
No, I didn't mind because the thing is, I mean, it normally doesn't wake me up, and I had to put it on vibrate because it kept entering me, but it was letting me know it was working. Now tonight it won't bother me because I'll put it on vibrate and just let it work. And I wake up in the middle of the night anyway, so I look at my trades and lay back down or whatever. But I do this full time, so it don't bother me. I'll get my nap during the day. I make my money in the morning to get my nap during the day. But literally, it kept pinging me because I have my notifications set, and it kept letting me know that hey, the stop loss was working, and that's what I needed. Because I didn't do demo. I just did it straight out of my account, and I went literally probably more pips than that because I literally went from I did a small account instead of a demo. I opened up another small account for like $50. I was at $99 this morning.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I basically, okay, somebody contacted me saying she has a $100 account, and I said, okay. But I kind of like know that if you use the PipCollector well, you can even start with a $100 account, But obviously, I would advise, if anybody asks, I would say, okay, fine, at least $250 or so. But yeah, it does work. So it's good. Just to say, if you don't mind me, saying this to your team, this is basically, can be used for recruiting big time. I personally, for the last 3 weeks, I've been focusing on just the PipCollector, not even so much IML, because it's just taking a lot of my time to fine tune things to this bit, and it's something that we can definitely use for bringing or recruiting people into IML or whatever we are in, as long as it's Forex. Yes, I don't know if there are any more questions or observations. Apart from what we've talked about now, are there things that you think we could do, some additions to the PipCollector you think we would want for the future?
To be honest with you, not right now. The way it worked, it was just a matter of me knowing, because I had like my take profit at 200 pips. I didn't know the settings for the new one. And then I had some people that lost some money yesterday because they still had the old settings from the 2.0 version into the 2.1. So they lost some money. So we're getting all that rectified. It wasn't because of the PipCollector didn't work. It was because we were using old data, in the version. And so now I'm tweaking it. And now that I've had this webinar with you, I can go in and now put in what we need to put in for our team. Yeah. And because I know it works, I did it this morning. $50 I made this morning. I didn't count up my pips, but I know it was about 50, 60 pips or so. Okay. And real well.
And the 230 you're making mention of, is that 230 EST?
Standard time, yes.
Okay, guys. Thanks for being here today. It's been a pleasure, working with you or having you on. I do hope everybody is now on the admin channel, because as you might well know, not everybody in the other channel is a paid member. So I only have the paid members on the admin channel. So there are some things that are going to be for just the paid members and for the paid members alone. So let's all try and get in that channel so that we can get and receive this information whenever it comes out. Nice having you tonight, and hopefully we'll speak again soon in the next webinar or in the chat room. Okay, now, God bless.